I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up.
What do you think the number one cause of death is? I'm about to share something with you that you have probably never heard anyone say before. But this is such a powerful truth. And I challenge anybody on the planet to try to prove this wrong. So the number one cause of death. If you go into Google right now and search the number one cause of death globally, it's going to tell you heart disease or cardiovascular disease is the number one cause of death. Now, if from there you search how long has heart disease been the number one cause of death globally, then you're going to get results that say something like over a century. So for over 100 years, according to Google, the number one cause of death has been heart disease. Now, if you go into Google and you search what is the number one cause of heart disease, then you may get different results. I've done it several times. I've gotten different results each time. One result came back saying high cholesterol is the number one cause of heart disease. One result came back that said smoking is the number one cause of heart disease. One result came back that said clogged arteries is the number one cause of heart disease. And then there's this condition which describes the buildup of plaque in the arteries, which kind of goes with clogged arteries, but it has a name, atherosclerosis or some shit like that, right? So that was considered the number one cause of heart disease. And out of all the, different types of heart diseases that are known, coronary heart disease was number one. And that's caused by arteriosclerosis. I know I'm fucking that name up, but I'm in the ballpark. So, and then I don't think I said this, but diabetes came up as a number one cause of heart disease, but diabetes is a fat disease. So I got different results. But the thing is, of all of these different results, the only one that's like the oddball is smoking, right? Because the buildup of plaque in the arteries, cholesterol, even the arteriosclerosis, this all has to do with fat. This all has to do with the arteries, the diameter of your arteries being lessened, right? So let's just say your arteries start off at a diameter like this. And so what happens is when you consume fats, certain types of fats, not all fats, but unnatural fats, then what happens is these walls narrow and they get smaller and smaller, right? So now you start off with, this being the optimal diameter for blood flow, for blood to circulate throughout your body, right? But over time, eating things you're not supposed to eat and, eating these unnatural fats, what happens is those fats stick to the walls of your arteries and that diameter narrows. So now your blood has to circulate through a diameter of this size instead of this size. And I gave this analogy. This is such a great analogy, but think about it like this. And I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but for people who eat animals, I used to eat animals. I used to cook. And so, some of you, you may have parents, like old school parents, where they used to keep like a Crisco can in the kitchen. And when they cooked any type of flesh of an animal, they would drain the grease or the fats, and they would pour these fats in a Crisco can, whatever kind of can it was. And, they would do that for two reasons. One, they would do it to reuse it because the fats are said to add flavor. Two, the other reason they would do it is because they didn't want to pour that shit down their kitchen sink drain. Because they understood that if they poured these fats down their sink drain, then, those fats are going to stick to the walls of their drain pipes. And so their drain pipe, maybe starts off like this. And if they pour those fats down their drain, then that drain pipe diameter is going to narrow, and it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then water is not going to flow down that drain. They're going to start having, clogs. The sink is going to start backing up. Water's not going to drain properly. Right? So they just knew better than to do that. I don't know what they did with it after they finished using it. If they just threw that shit in the trash or what. And another thing that I just want to, highlight is, if you're familiar with this, then that when those fats from those animals cool down, they solidify. When when they've reached a certain temperature, like when you're cooking, they're liquefied. When they cool down, they solidify, they harden. Right? So they would never pour it down the sink. And I know this from experience too, because, when I used to cook, I used to do the same thing. I would drain all the fats off, as much as I could get. There's no way to get all of it. Even if I was buying, like lean flesh, like 98% lean, 99% lean, even if it was turkey or chicken, like the flesh of, like, no matter what it was, there would still be a lot of fat in the skillet that I would have to drain. And I didn't have a Crisco can. So I would just put shit in like a mason jar. And I didn't reuse it because But yeah, so, and then what did I do? I don't even remember what I did with the shit. I might have just threw the whole fucking mason jar away or something. I don't know. I might have flushed it down. I don't know what I did with it. I don't remember. But I remember seeing it, when I drained it into the jar, it being a liquid. And then, like once it reached room temperature, it would become a solid. So that's the number one cause of heart disease, which is the number one cause of death. Now, what do people eat that clogs their arteries? There's only one thing that people eat that clogs their arteries that I know of, and that's animals. That's animals, and that's anything made from animals, or say like animals' milk. Those two things, like, it don't matter whether it's the flesh from a dead bird, the flesh from a dead pig, the flesh from a dead cow or goat or lamb, dog, cat, squirrel, raccoon, it don't matter what it is. All of these animals, just like us, fats are necessary for us to thrive. It's necessary for us to consume healthy fats. But healthy fats don't come from other animals. It doesn't come from eating the flesh of other animals. Healthy fats come from eating fruits. And you could listen to people and people will tell you, well, healthy fats also come from here and here and here. Nah, because you ain't supposed to be eating none of that shit. If you can't eat it in its raw natural state, you're not supposed to be eating it at all, period. Which means if you have to cook it, if you have to alter it, if you have to denature it, if you have to take it out of its natural state, you're not supposed to be eating it. So the healthy fats that we should consume, that we are designed to consume, come from fruits. It does not come from other animals. And so when you put this together, then you realize, okay, the number one cause of death is diet. The number one cause of death is heart disease. The number one cause of death is arteriosclerosis, or coronary heart disease specifically. And then the number one cause of all of that is eating animals. This is what people say, call meat. Eating the flesh of animals is the number one cause of death globally. And not only is it the number one cause of death globally for the past 100 years, it's been the number one cause of death globally for as long as people have been eating animals. And people could say, well, the animals people ate back then is different from the animals that people eat today. I mean, that's true. Because the animals that people eat today contain drugs and antibiotics and vaccines and carbon monoxide, nitrates and nitrites, all kind of chemicals and shit. Because, when they kill the animal, the flesh, of that animal is not in the grocery store on the shelf till weeks later, months later. And so, they do a lot of things to it to make it appear fresh or fresher than it is. So when you look at it, you're not turned off by how it smells or how it looked. They artificially enhance the color of it and they freeze it so you don't smell how bad it stinks. They even do artificial things to it to improve the texture and how tender the flesh is. But again, the animal this flesh came from was killed weeks ago, months ago. And if you were to ever drive by an animal that was killed on the side of the road weeks ago or months ago, then you already know that animal is gonna stink. And you would never eat that. It doesn't matter where the animal is killed at. Any animal killed weeks ago or months ago is rotting. It's rotting and it's rotted. But it's just in, within these controlled environments, they know how to artificially change the color, change the texture, change the flavor, and the smell temporarily, long enough for you to buy it, cook it and eat it. It's the same thing though. But I just thought this was really powerful because now I've pinpointed the number one cause of death all the way to its origin, all the way down to the root. Because online they'll tell you the number one cause of death is heart disease. Okay, but what causes the heart disease though? The number one cause of death is clogged arteries, plaque buildup in the arteries, cholesterol buildup in the. Okay, but what causes that? Where is this coming from? It's coming from somewhere. The body isn't doing this to itself. So where is this coming from? They never tell you that. They never tell you, the number one cause. Even when I just, they just, it's like you got to drag this shit out of them. Or you just got to apply your mind and search for the answer yourself. Because even when I search the number one cause of heart disease, they still not telling you what it really is. They're saying it's cholesterol and, plaque buildup, and they got arteriosclerosis or whatever the fuck. Okay, well, what's the number one cause of those things? And the number one cause of those things is eating animals. Or, products, or drinking animals' milk. And consuming products made from this animal's milk. That's the number one cause of death. The number one cause of death since people started dying is eating animals and consuming animals' milk. And people, like a lot of things. I mean, probably the number one things that people who eat animals say is, they like to talk about how humans have been eating animals for thousands of years or fucking millions of years or whatever the case. Like, what does that mean? That just means people have been stupid for thousands of years or millions of years. That just means people have been retarded for thousands of years or millions of years, however long it's been. That's all that means. So because they were retarded millions of years ago, you're going to follow in their retarded footsteps, and you're going to be retarded too. Like these people aren't saying, well, people was eating animals, millions of years ago, and they lived for 500 years and thrived and were in excellent health, or they lived for 1,000 years and thrived and were. They're just saying they ate the flesh of animals thousands of years ago and millions. That's all they're saying. They're not talking. It's the same thing people do today. Like they don't never mention these people's health. Right? Same thing people do today when, they'll say something like, well, my grandma or so-and-so lived to be 101 years old and she ate animals. So what? So what? Tell me about this person's health. Why they not still here? Why they not still here? Because 100 is young. Especially when you consider that time is not even real. Right? People be thinking that time is real. When you really understand that time is not real, time is man-made, then you understand that what are years? The human body was not designed to die. How did she die? Heart disease? If she died from heart disease, she killed herself. Cancer, she died from any disease, or this person died from any disease, then they killed themselves. They poisoned their bodies dead. Doesn't matter how long it took. Because again, time is not real. Years are not real. Right? So It doesn't matter. And they never talk about the person's health. I see people online all the time that's 100 years old and, even more, like 101, 102, 103, 100. I've seen these people like enter marathons and running marathons. But these people are not running. They're not running at all. They're really just wasting people's time. They look like they about to fall out at any moment. They're hunched over. They are barely moving, and people celebrate this just because their number, their quote, age, which is not real. Age is not a thing. But these people believe it is, so their age is 100+ years old, whatever the case. Right? But again, age is not a thing. Age can't be real if time is not real. So you take away age and time, then it's like, why is this person hunched over? Why is this person barely able to move? They look like they about to pass out at any moment. Like, you gotta understand, like, when you see these people, like, this is not an old person because time is not real. Age is not real. So this is not an old person. This person is old looking and decrepit and frail and can barely move because they've been poisoning their bodies their entire lives. That's what you're looking at. People don't know what they're really looking at. And no doubt about it, this is somebody that ate animals. So they never talk about the health these people are in. How many drugs are they on? Like, how many drugs prescribed by their quack are they on? People love to call these things medications, but they're not medications. They're drugs. How many drugs is this person taking just to make it through the day? These are things people don't talk about when they talk about how old a certain person is. You're not supposed to be old. You're not supposed to be old at all. We're not supposed to age. Again, time is not real. So aging is not real. Whatever you see and you equate to old age is really bodily poisoning. Right? How many surgeries has this person had? You start asking them these questions, and then, this dumbass shit that they saying becomes less and less impressive. How many surgeries has this person had? What diseases are they living with right now? What are they suffering from right now? So none of that matters. How long a person lived, and none of that shit matters. That shit is all irrelevant. The number one cause of death is eating animals and drinking and drinking milk from a different animal that's intended for that animal's baby. You should die for that. Like, real shit. You should be fucking ashamed of yourself. Stealing milk from a baby. People talk about stealing candy from a baby. Stealing milk from a baby, from another species, and drinking it for yourself. You should die for that. Speedily. Like, these people don't die fast enough, in my opinion. They don't die fast enough. It's a good thing that I ain't running shit, because all these motherfuckers would be dead. Like, all that mercy and grace shit. What's that? What's that? I'm killing them all. But yeah, man, on that note, shit, 25 in. I'm about to just wrap this up. I made this video so many times. I've enjoyed talking about it each time though. And each video is a little different. I may post all of them. I don't know. But that's profound. I think about that. The number one cause of death globally has always been eating animals since people started eating animals and eating or drinking animals' milk since humans have been eating and consuming animals' milk in whatever form, in a liquid form or a solid form. That's pretty profound. Think about it. I challenge anybody to try to prove me wrong. I mean, you know, be nice if you come with some type of fucking proof. But how can you prove the truth wrong? You can't prove the truth wrong. Truth can't be proven wrong because it's true. And there's so much I could say about this, but I'm going to wrap that up here. I'll talk to y'all soon.